Episode 3464, Are You Sleeping with Anger?
Moms, it's time to rediscover, rejuvenate, and renew who you are in mind, body, and spirit. Welcome to Create Your Now, Your Best Selfie, the show to help you do just that. Here's your host, certified life coach, personal trainer, and nutritionist, Christiane Wargo.
Happy day. How are you doing? Are you enjoying the weekend with the family? Maybe having some downtime? Oh, we're getting so much rain. I know you got to kind of buckle up, but I'm traveling. It's been a great time, but you know what? Today, I want to focus on something unique for marriages. Are you sleeping with anger? For those of you who are brand new to Create Your Now, welcome to this incredible family. I'm so delighted of your presence. If you already haven't had the opportunity, you'll want to head on over to createyournow.com where you can learn more and sign up for the Kisses newsletter, the Keep It Simple strategy, everyday solutions to live, love, and impact. Well, this episode is brought to you by AIM, Inspiring Connection and Community. Well, I can't go very far without saying hello to some of my incredible new friends that I've just met. Oh, yes, I want to give a shout out to Connie, Elizabeth, Carrie, Kelly, Kim, Rachel, Rhonda, and Vicky. You know what? I've loved our time together, and I cannot wait to see you all write and impact the world that you touch. Oh, yes, indeed. Well, we'll come up with more of that stuff later. You know what? God is good, and you all know how I feel about life. And sometimes I think we just kind of go through the motions thinking that, yeah, I'm going to get through this and I can do it under my own strength. And then the problem is that we keep confronting things. And then it's not just, oh, this too shall pass. It now becomes this boulder. It used to be a pebble, but now it's a boulder. You know, conflicts and disagreements are bound to happen in marriage. And sometimes you can escape them if they're just a little pebble. But what happens when they turn into the boulder? You know, one common dilemma that many couples face is whether to go to bed angry or resolve their issues, especially if you've been raised, don't go to bed angry. Now, we can sit here and argue either side, but the question remains, are you sleeping with anger? According to a recent survey, nearly 65% of married couples admit to going to bed angry at least once a month. Now, quite frankly, I think that's a little low personally. Now, I'm not saying that anger is something where you're just like red in the face and screaming and yelling. Now, I do know there are a lot of couples out there that sit there and that's how they argue. They argue in front of their kids or even in front of their family. They just let it all hang out. And even the fur babies, they're sitting there with their paws over their ears. That's a little much, don't you think? I mean, we got to think about how we're handling our anger. Anger is an emotion and it's raw, but we need to figure out how we can tame it. Because on the flip side, couples who make an effort to resolve their conflicts before bedtime tend to report higher levels of satisfaction and intimacy in their relationship. So, where do you fall? Seriously. How do you handle a disagreement? How do you handle that argument, that conflict that maybe just got pushed a little too far and now you're like, oh, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, 2 hours later, it's bedtime. And your spouse is like, well, sweetheart, you know what? We got to talk about this. And you're like, I am nowhere near to being able to talk about it. Or maybe you're one who says, let's sit down and talk about it. I don't know. Maybe you're none of those. What are you? Are you the lion? Are you the lamb? Or are you the bunny rabbit or the squirrel? Like, what are you? Where do you fall? You know the age-old advice, right, of never going to bed angry. It does hold some truth, but is it always realistic? That's the question because, right, we're very busy. What happens when you're too tired or overly tired? I know sometimes I am up to 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and my husband's already in bed by 8:30. That's his regular regimen because he gets up very, very early in the morning and he just keeps that regimen every single day. I respect that. So really for us, it's like, okay, if he goes to bed and I'm upset, well, he's already asleep, so I can't talk to him. But is it wise to do that, right? Should you resolve your conflict? I don't know. That's what we're discussing today because most of us, we just get angry. We just let the emotions flow. We attach to the feelings and then we make those pebbles a boulder And then we say, yep, that's okay. I'm right. You're wrong. Go deal with it. That's not a great way to build a strong foundation in your marriage. That's only going to create more of a barrier, right? You're going to create this taller wall that maybe was already like half as tall as you. And now all of a sudden you're strengthening it with anger, right? Anger is that mortar. Think of the mortar in between brick, and you make sure if there's a little crack, you're like, oh, I got to fill this with this part. Oh yeah, now it's all strong. And now all of a sudden this wall may be very, very tall, but it's so thick that it's hard to break down. And then you wonder why the big D comes into conversation, whether it's divorce, okay, right? That's the big D. Or do you start saying, oh man, if we just separate, maybe we just need some space, right? You can get into a season where you're just angry at each other all the time. So where do you fall? Psychologists suggest that burying emotions and pretending everything is fine just to avoid bedtime conflicts can actually harm your marriage in the long run. Sometimes taking a break and allowing emotions to cool off before addressing the issue can be a healthy approach. But again, you get to choose. And is it right? Does it have to be the same all the time? Right? If you're boiling over and you cannot calm down, do you think you should interact with your spouse? Now, some would say, oh yeah, it's in the Bible, Christiane. Okay, we could talk biblical, but I want to talk about real life right now. Meaning, yes, we need to look at the Bible. I totally agree with that. And for those of you who are not believers, that's okay too. But if you're saying, okay, the Bible's here, but what does your realistic life look like? The real part, your earthly life, not the heavenly. Because you still got to deal with the anger. And if you're one who's just not there and you're not going to be able to have a civil conversation, what good is it to do you both to come together and just continue yelling at each other, making more pebbles or bigger boulders or stronger walls, right? So if you find yourself boiling with anger and feel that having a conversation before bed might escalate the situation, maybe you should calm the sizzle. That is your kiss to keep it simple strategy. Calm the sizzle. And really that's what we need to learn to do, right? We take the emotions, we look at the feelings we say, okay, now how do I deal with this? Okay, because with our emotions, we have bodily interactions, meaning your blood pressure can rise, your cortisol level is going to rise. You may even actually have an endorphin rush. There are so many things chemically going on within your body. And then you're like, and I'm supposed to talk to my spouse? Really? In a civil manner? Really? Hence, calm the sizzle. Most of the time, we just spout off. If you're feeling this rush of heat, and not because of a hot flash, but because literally you're like, I feel my blood pressure rising, then you need to take a time out. We're really quick to put our kids in time out, but what if we were to take that and put ourselves in time out? Go get a breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. Don't be so quick to sit there and lash out, because let me tell you, once when your words have escaped your mouth, there's no way you can reel them back in. They're gone. And when they land, they explode and leave a mark. Now that explosion can be a beautiful sprinkles that uplift and inspire and show love, or it can be a time bomb, literally, that takes a chunk or creates a crack in the heart, a crevice, which then can form eventually a cavity, which then what? Bitterness lives. So at some point, we have to say, okay, I'm not at a good place right now. And my friend, that takes maturity. That means you are actually paying attention to who you are. What do you look like when you're angry? How are you feeling? Can you really go on with this conversation? Is it a good place to go on? Now, let me also say this. We're not talking about abuse in any form or fashion here. We're not talking about calling each other names and belittling each other over and over and over and over again. Okay? We're not talking about that. We're not talking about physical abuse when you're having a heated conversation and then one spouse, or sometimes even both, get physical and violence can arise. We are not at all talking about that, okay? If you are having those kind of discussions, and they are not discussions, they are arguments, it is abuse, I'm telling you right now, you need to seek help. Whether it's counseling, couple counseling, whether it's going individually, whether it's marriage coaching, whatever it is that you need, but seek professional licensed help, okay? Because you can't play with fire. And a lot of times we don't understand that our words are fire. And it can be a great thing because it can ignite some incredible passion within your marriage, but it also can burn it down all at the same time. So what does it look like in real life to calm the sizzle? Number one, lower the temperature. Reflect on the facts and feelings. When you can separate the two, it allows you to gather perspectives that can help you decipher the situation at hand. That's when you look at it and say, oh, okay, now I can see clearly, right? Have you ever tried to put on glasses? Oh, wait, better yet, have you ever gotten out of the shower? And when you got in the shower, oh, the room is totally clear, right? There's nothing, but man, when you open it up and you got the heat from your shower, I'm assuming you're taking a hot shower, by the way, not a cold blast. And that comes out and that steam does what? It fogs up the mirrors. All of a sudden it's like, gosh, you can't see anything, okay? If you are wearing those kind of lenses when you're looking at your situation, you're not going to see clearly. You got to lower the temperature. You got to clear it out, calm it down. And remember, this has nothing to do with your spouse. It's not about pointing fingers, but it has everything to do with you. Lower your temperature. Remember, you can only control you. You can't control your spouse as much as you would like to. You cannot. So really look at, okay, what am I doing? And as you work on this and you go through disagreements or arguments, whatever it is, heated discussions, because there are different ones and everybody has a different definition of that. But then you'll begin to feel your body do something. And that's a good indication to, whoa, let's take a step back. Maybe I need to do something different because you're recognizing your triggers. Now, that would be a whole nother episode. We're not going to go down that road right now. What I want you to focus on is lowering the temperature. You've had the argument. You're mad now. Okay? Your spouse doesn't want to talk to you right now, and neither do you. But you will talk as long as you can spit out darts or have the flames coming out of your mouth, right? The dragon effect. So first, no, lower the temperature. You got to calm yourself down. Number two, crack the conversation. This is where you open the door just a little bit and see if your spouse is ready to discuss the situation using active listening skills and seeking common ground. There is no room for, I'm right. I told you I'm right. See, it's about time you recognize that I'm right. No. This is about truly listening, truly hearing and understanding your partner's perspective. And that allows you what? It allows you to diffuse the anger and see their side of the story. Communication is key. John Gottman says this, listen with the intent to understand, not to reply. This is an opportunity to clear the air. Listening to your spouse speak. You have 2 ears to hear, 1 mouth to speak. So listen first before you talk. Crack the conversation. Now, if in that conversation you're feeling like this is not going well, I'm feeling the blood pressure going up. Oh man, I'm getting that tight sizzle in my tummy and I'm about ready to blow. Here comes a dragon fire. You know what? You got to lower the temperature. Back off. Go put yourself in timeout. Remove yourself from the conversation. I just basically say, I'm putting myself in timeout, which means to my husband, don't talk to me. Now is not a good time. Don't push my buttons anymore. And quite frankly, if you respect your spouse enough, You should not push their buttons. And I'm not saying when you're teasing and being playful and all of that. Yeah, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you're like, yeah, I got her where I want her. Oh, yeah, I'm going to get him now because, he really aggravated me because of this, this, and this. Now, you're not thinking that specifically, but subconsciously you are. And so all of a sudden now you're like, I'm going to, let the dart fly and I'm going to twist it. Yeah, that feels good. No, it doesn't feel good, right? Because you're hurting the heart. So be very cautious. If you crack the conversation, you may have to go backwards a little bit and lower the temperature and be like, okay, we're not ready for this yet. But then when you get there, number 3, seek common ground. Find the areas of agreement and focus on shared values to bridge the gap between conflicting viewpoints. You might need to consider both and. Okay, you may not agree on everything. You may have to agree to disagree. You may have to say, okay, yeah, I see your side, I see my side. So it's both and. Then you have to figure out compromise. But first, you've got to get to that common ground. Otherwise, you're left hanging. And then you're all bent out of shape. Here comes the disagreement, which comes into the heated conversation, which then leads into the full-blown war. And it's the war of words. Who can be louder than the other? Lower the temperature, crack the conversation, seek common ground. In the midst of anger, remember the love that brought you together. We forget that. Have respect for your spouse. We got to learn to love them where they're at. You can get through this, but it takes effort. So stop being lazy. I'm just telling you like it is. So let's look at navigating bedtime conflict. Okay. When you do that, remember, it requires a delicate balance of addressing the issues and respecting the emotions. It's hard to do, but if you practice it, I promise you, you will have progress. So while you resolve these conflicts before bedtime is truly ideal, it would be great if we all could go to bed happy. It's equally important to recognize when emotions are running high, and taking a pause can be beneficial. Sometimes you got to mute each other. You got to walk away for a moment to regather, right? To rethink, to say, okay, now I'm in the frame of mind where we can continue the conversation. Because if you can actually have a conversation, that changes your landscape. My friend, as a couple, you can bridge this gap of anger and move towards the path of understanding and affection. Remember, in the dance of marriage, sometimes a pause can lead to a more harmonious rhythm. Go in peace, be present, be incredible, be you. I love you so very much. I cannot wait to see you on the other side. Blessings, hugs, and lots of love. We'll talk to you real soon. Have a glorious, blessed day. Bye-bye.
Feeling inspired, ready to train for life and love your journey? Visit createyournow.com for more incredible resources to help you along the way. We'll see you next time on Create Your Now, Your Best Selfie. And remember, always be sure you consult your physician before beginning any health and fitness plan.